Hi chat, can you hear me? I haven't streamed in like what, like a month now. I haven't streamed in like yeah, you can hear me. Cool, good. When was the last time I streamed? It's got to be a month ago, right? Over. The last stream I did was on the 6th of April. It's the 4th of May, so just under a month. All right, fair enough. So yeah, it's May the 4th, Star Wars Day. I was actually going to do some incredible detail. I was going to like have a starry background, download some Star Wars font. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be like, wow, this video has nothing to do with this stream. Sorry, has nothing to do with Star Wars yet. Here we are with a Star Wars intro. I don't even like Star Wars. Why am I doing this? I don't know. And then I realized I just couldn't be bothered. What I wanted to do today, I had to get some. Oh wait, actually, I do need some. All right, I have 20 seconds to go get something. Will I make it? Oh my god, I'm gonna make it. I did it! Ah, yes! Had to get me a drink. Plus me books. I'm out of breath because I was running. Alright. Hello. Chat. Hi. Hello. Hi. Yes. Cool. What's the stream called? Because I don't know if I named it right. Did I name it right? Yeah, music and Minecraft. That's good. Alright. Let's see. Alright. Actually. Alright. So then. Here we are. So, the idea today is I was having a look and I was thinking, because on my schedule, I'm not sure this is going to be a fascinating video, so I might replace it with something else. But on the schedule, sometime in a couple weeks, I had making music in Minecraft. It's been something I wanted to do for ages, because I know that you can. So if you have a look, the note blocks, I've written like, so if you just place a note block down, and by the way, I'm somewhat musical. I can play the piano, not great. I can't sight read very well. It takes me a couple months to learn a piece, and I do not have perfect pitch. So I had to use Safari, no, not Safari, Google, to make sure that this was right. And I haven't like tuned it or anything, so I don't know if what Google told me was correct. But I'm pretty sure, just leave it, just placing the block like this. This is an F sharp. Yeah, if I press it once, that would be a G. If I do it again, then it becomes a G sharp. So on. So, I've actually done a bit of testing. I actually created my favorite scale, which is C harmonic minor. That is my favorite. I think it sounds amazing. Listen. Might need to turn it up a little bit, but how does this sound? Does this sound better? Ooh. Right, hang on. Just wait for all of these to turn off. There we are. Okay, because otherwise it catches up and it gets a bit. Why is it being like that? A bit annoying. Maybe I'll just stand still. yeah, that's better. Alright, I think I didn't like me moving about. So yeah, that's a C harmonic minor, because it's a minor and it sounds very nice. It's mysterious. I love it. It's better than just the ordinary minor, which the ordinary minor I think doesn't have the B flat. No, D sharp. Sorry. I don't know. I wouldn't wait. Would it be a G sharp or an? Would you say a G sharp or A flat for C harmonic? Like. Okay, right. C harmonic minor scale. A flat is what they've said. E flat and A flat. So yeah, but I just did it like G sharp and stuff, and D sharp because I don't know. Just thought it's better to cross reference from this to this. So I don't think octaves work very well. I don't know what octave is there. So you've got F sharp. Wait, let's start with a C, because C's the best. So we've got C to C. Alright, so you got like one octave to play with. So I was thinking we could oh, did I not click exclamation mark? I didn't. There we are. They're all dead. 18. Oh yeah, of course, I'll keep spawning. /game. You can't see this, can you? My face can't cover it. But /game rule mob. Do mob spawning. False. And we'll just go back to this. Great, okay. Alright, so. Whew. What to do first? I was thinking we start off with. So have you seen the recent Baruch Block video? Because I do play the piano in that, and one of the songs I play, and one of the songs I actually got credited for, not credited, like applauded, clapped, a crowd. One of the songs I got a crowd for was Harry Potter. Now, as I said, I can barely sight read, so this is I've gotten like some of the notes written in, it's helpful. I was thinking we could create the Harry Potter song. Now, obviously, this is just a version. I don't think this is. I don't know. Is this the official John Williams piece, or is this like an altered John Williams piece? I'm not sure, but it sounds nice. So I thought we'd create it here, because obviously I don't have a piano. Well, I do. I have it downstairs. It's plugged in. I can't really video downstairs. So I'd love a keyboard up here, but I don't have a keyboard. So we're making do with this. Oh, I need a repeater. That's quite a big part of this. Otherwise, they all play at the same time. I'm pretty sure. If I didn't have a repeater. Well, that's not even. Would they play? Oh, only that one actually. Oh, it's still just. You do need the repeater. It gives it a slight delay, but this will give it a bigger delay. This is, I think, the best delay. But if you do it like this, you can also. So yeah. Alright. So let's start off with the bass, because I think that's easier. With the ukulele, I did a couple months ago, I had the pages, but I don't have the pages anymore. So you'll have to deal with this. You'll have to hang on with me. So for the first 4 bars, it's pretty much just the left hand playing, okay? And it plays the same thing. It plays E, B, and G. E, B, G, E, B, G, E, B, G, E, B, and then we get the whole thing playing. So let's start with the bass. Now, do we do the bass as a I feel like we need to go this way. I feel like we need to go this way. So, yeah, okay, so E, B, G, and we'll do it like this. E, B, G, E, B, G, E, B, G. We need a way to like signify that that's the end of a bar. So for this one, it's the thing's 3/8. I'm pretty sure that's just the same. I think that's similar. That's like 3 quavers. Hang on. I might do a bit of... I'm not the great with like the theory side of this. So 3/8 time signature. What does that mean? It's similar to 3/4, but what? How many counts? But I want to know what note. Quaver. I was right. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's get some sort of wood. Let's just get like white wool. So E, B, G, E, B, G, E, B, G. So that's the 3rd, so this is the 4th one. E, B, G. So this is the opening, right? And I think, well, because it's an infinite world, we could just keep having the bass going infinitely this way. But with the right hand, we'll have it go like wrap around. I know. I don't know. I wanted to give this a go. Should we do this as well? Right, so this is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that? So let's get sign as well. Alright. Do we do an yeah, okay. So E is 10, B is 17. So we'll do E, which we're gonna just write as 10 so that we don't have to do that. E, B, which is 17. And did it say G was 13? Yeah, it did. Okay. G 13. Alright. Cool. So we've placed it down, so now we just need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And we have to just repeat that process. So 10, 17, 13. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Right, that also makes me think that this one wasn't right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Let's just give it a go. That's not right, is it? Which one's wrong there? Oh, I've done G wrong. Dude. What's that one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Try now. That's better. Are we saying that, do we want that to be slower, or is that okay like that? No, I quite like it, like. Okay. So that's kind of the first part. That's the first line, basically. Except for the fact that this part, in the first line, the right hand does come in on this, which would be a B. So are we gonna do the same octave, or are we? I don't think I'll be able to. I don't think there's enough space to do an octave up, is there? I guess not. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Alright, so I'll start with B. I guess we could wrap it round. We'll have this go down, round. I've never done this before, just so you know. So, how far till sound stops traveling? But also, we need these two to like link up. Are we assuming it's gonna be like this? Let's do class, because is this gonna work? Does glass not conduct the... Oh my god, I didn't know that. Alright, fine, we'll do it like this. I don't know, G, right. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That should be better. Oh, what's going on there? Is this slightly faster? really quickly. Just see if that works. That worked, didn't it? Yeah, I think that worked. Alright, so now we focus on the right hand. I don't think we need... Let's just forget about the... oh, yeah, okay, let's just forget about the left hand for a minute. And we'll move it like this way. So let's go like... this would just go... Wait, how do we cancel them out? Yeah, I guess it works. Yeah, there we go. B high 69 red slot 69. Is that right? Sorry. Hey, you alright? I am currently trying to make music in Minecraft. Well, hopefully if it goes right, it will be Harry Potter, but Hedwigs theme. But I mean, it could sound like anything, so who knows. Yes. Cool. Now, I've got like the manuscript. Oh, drop something. I've got the manuscript here, so I'm just trying to copy it into this, but I'm not sure how well it'll work. Right. So this is a B. Oh wow. It took me a while to actually get into, like, I watched the films before the books, which is something that most people find appalling. But yeah. But I finally got around to reading the books like a couple years ago, and I love them, so I thought. Take it you're a big Harry Potter fan then. Right. B E. So this needs to be an E. That's not gonna work. Oh yeah, Potterhead. That's right. Am I gonna have... I could do it like this. Gonna change it because I'm not gonna have enough, so... My father will hear about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. B was 5. Yeah, I'm not a major Potterhead, but I do have all the books, so yeah, and I've watched the film. What's your favourite film or book? Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is my favourite film, but Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is my favourite book, I think. But Deathly Hallows might be a close second. So B, E. G. G and then F. Yeah, that was yeah, Sirius Black's death really shocked me when I first saw it, because I was like, oh wow, because I didn't expect it. Right, B, E, G, F, E, back to E. Two 2005. Right. B, E, G, F, E. Just been E. I saw the Sirius, yes. Wait, how does this sound? Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot that I had to get the timing right. Hang on. Oh, that's gonna be harder now. So... I mean, let's try that. Oh, F sharp. Hang on. Not F. F sharp 12. B, E, G, F, and... Hang on.
You've been...
Yeah. Yeah, that's Hedwig's theme. Try not to get too copyrighted. Right, so hang on. Let's just see how this sounds. That's not quite right. It's the right notes, but not the right rhythm. are you absolute? Wow. Okay. Alright, that's you block. Now I'm joking. But that's annoying. Because I was skeptical to click the first link because I thought it might be a Rickroll, but then I saw that equals John Williams, and I thought, no, that's not a Rickroll. But, oh my god, I'm livid. Right, what goes wrong here? What's that? Right, red. That sounds better. Let's just try and get the notes out of the way and then we'll worry about the rhythm. So what are we up to? That didn't work. It doesn't like it when I move. The sound gets all messed up. Okay, gotta play a high beat. Oh, another link. Alright. What is this gonna be? If it's another Rickroll.
Open it.
What is this? Harry gets Rickrolled. Oh god. Yeah, that's good. Seventeen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Right, let's just see what this sounds like again. I created a scale earlier. Right, okay, getting sidetracked. So $17. 15. Oh, you got another one. Hang on. Right. 17, 15. Here we go. Let's do this one now. Ah, it's a tutorial. What? Alright. So oh wait, I'll have a look at it properly in a second. Just want to see if I can sort this out. Do 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 do. Maybe that. F sharp. I'm what's the server? What's it about? Alright, hang on. I'll get rid of the chat quickly on the screen so you can send the IP. Alright, I don't remember, is that? Still an F sharp, right? Yeah, I think it is. 13. Wait, no, it's not 13. 12. Oops. Alright. Alright, how does this sound? Actually, I'm just gonna make... That sounds alright. There's a little bit that's not quite right. That bit. B. Oh, what happened there? Alright, hang on. That sounds quite good actually. Alright, yeah, let me try this then. Just see if it works. Oh, crap. Okay. I'll just call it. I'll just call it that for now. Let me copy that. Alright. Oh, alright. I'll give it a couple seconds then. I'll only be able to be on for like half an hour though, so that's quite good. That sounds alright. I just get rid of like this. That sounds alright. There's something wrong with that bit though. It's the timing, it's not right. Maybe is it too fast? It's that bit in it. Try that. That's too. But that seems too fast. I guess it'll do. It'll do. So that's the like beginning of it, you know. Is it that IP address? Still. Alright, cool. I can only play for like half an hour, but yeah, we'll give it a go. Oh, wait. It said error. Hang on, let me just. I don't know if I've done this right. Came up with error. Flying. What? It's still not working. Hang on. Alright. Failed to connect to server because of. Oh, I know why. I'm on a... Wait. Yeah, I'm on a different version. Hang on. Let me just... Yeah, this will work. It's because I'm on a different... I assume. I was on 19.2, and I think it's for 19.4, so just try that. Woohoo, I think it works. Cool. Alright. Let's just do that. Alright, cool. I'm just gonna make myself creative. So. What do you want to do? So, we could... How do you just do that? Wait, what? Alright, so first of all, I'll get a new block. Are we following the tutorial? I assume we should. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. Alright, let me bring it up. I have it somewhere. Look at this side. So. Hang on, just got an ad. Alright. So first of all, we need packed ice. And repeater. I'm making 5 repeater. 10 repeater. Ah, I see, I get it. Alright. I am going to like make a little layout because that makes it so yeah. Ice thing ice. Thing ice. Repeater, ice, repeater, ice, repeater, ice. Oh, that sounds good. pear. 3 repeaters, ice. 3 repeaters, ice. 2 repeaters, ice. That does sound good. Nice. Alright. Yeah. I think I'm doing this. Yes. That is, yeah, it is. Alright. Wait, I might have gotten this wrong. Ice to ice. In it. It's, yeah, that is good. Right, so, right, slash skin. Set. Oh, right. Wait, does this work for any game? Is this, do you need a game tag? Hang on. Ah, I see how this works. Alright. Ha! This is cool. Wait. For context, I'm currently being my friend's skin. Yeah, right. You're right. Yes, we've gotten sidetracked. Right. Right. Let me just check I'm doing this right. So, thing. Ice thing to. I think it's this. Dot. Oh my god. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alright. 2, ice. Ice. 2, ice. 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 Yeah, that is brilliant. Okay. that's good. It's really good. Oh, yeah, that's good. Alright, I'm gonna place some repeaters down. So brilliant. Finally. Is that it? Alright, let's give it a try. You ready? Yeah, I did. Wait. Yeah, I just need to try this. I forgot to do the repeaters. I did the repeaters for this section, just not this part. Alright, after this one, repeater. Yeah. And this final one. It's just like that. Alright, that should be done, I think. Wait, what? Is that it? Do you reckon? Alright, you can do the honors. That's amazing. That was great. That was amazing. Thank you so much for your help on that. That's... Alright, yeah. I'm gonna have to go in a couple minutes though. Oh my god. Wait, what? Hang on, hold on. Harry Potter. Is this gonna work? Oh god. Why have I got like shaved Harry Potter? Oh. What else we got? What other Potter skins are there? What? Turn your skin layers on. How the hell do I do that? Skin customization. Do I go to skin customization or no? Wait, how do I do that? I don't know. Skin. Turn everything on. Skin custom on. Ah, right. Oh, right. I didn't realize it was off. Is that better? There we go. Alright. Hold on. I don't have a mouth. Hang on. What did I leave off? I just don't have a mouth. Alright. That's okay. Oh. Oh. Great. Alright. I am going to... Okay. Oh. Alright. I'm gonna go, because I've got to go. So... Yeah, and I think that's a great time to... No, it's fine. I don't care about Twitch. If it's a bit, it doesn't have to be family friendly. My Twitch, it's my main channel. That's yeah. No, thank you for helping me. I mean, I would still be here, doing the first line of Harry Potter. So yeah, thanks for your help. Let me turn this back on. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, cool. Bye. Alright. And yeah, so that was great. Brilliant. I need next we need to learn how to do yeah. Next we need to learn to do never gonna give you up. We need to do no problem. We need to learn how to rickroll in Minecraft. That's the next goal. Alright. Thanks so much for your help. I gotta go. But yeah, I hope to do this again sometime because that was great fun. And yeah, whenever I next stream, if you are able to, I do have Discord actually. Yeah, we could exchange Discords. Hang on a minute. Oh wait, it's updating. But I have got your thing. Hang on. Oh, there we go. It's done. What is this? Yeah. So next time I'm streaming, I try to stream most Thursday afternoons, but I might not stream next week. I don't know. But if ever you catch me in a stream, just mention or just hit chat. Give me a Discord chat when you next want to do it, and we'll build something else. Right, right, let me add your username. King. Okay. Cool. I think. Oh wait, hang on. I've got to just got to make sure I'm not a robot. Hang on. Oh god, why are these actually kind of hard? An electric scooter. Okay. Dude. Great, I've done it. It didn't work anyway. Hang on, let me try again. I don't think I did the caps. Let me just copy it. Actually, that would just be easier, wouldn't it? At the end of the day, that is much easier. Oh, I've got to verify I'm a robot again. Not a robot, even. The pain. There we go. I think I did it. I think I have done it. Woo! It looks like it worked. Alright. I might not always be available, but when I am, I will. Yeah, adios. Hasta luego. Okay, alright. down. Thanks very much for watching the stream, chat, and thank you so much, Red, for helping me today, because, I mean, yeah, like I already said, I'd still be trying to do it, and we did that so much easier with the tutorial. So, yeah, thanks for watching the stream, and I will see you later, possibly next week, possibly not, I don't know, depends what I have in mind. Bye.